Hello and welcome to this week's video. We are going to be talking about dealing with difficult people. I'm sure it's an interesting guide for you as a leader. So, as we all know, leadership is a difficult skill to master, especially when you're managing difficult people. Everyday leaders are always faced with complex problems and scenarios in which they must navigate the intricacies of human behavior in order to achieve success. Dealing with difficult people can be a challenge for any leader, but if you have the right strategies and tools which can make it easier to handle these situations, then you'll be a little bit empowered and equipped to be able to forge forward. It's important for leaders to understand how best to manage their team members and deal with issues constructively while maintaining morale and fostering productive relationships. With an understanding of different personalities that present and the needs of those that follow them, leaders can be well prepared for anything that comes their way. So this week's video is just designed to give you a guide as a leader on how to effectively deal with difficult people. The main objective of this video is just to equip you as a leader with strategies for recognizing and managing difficult people in the organization, to provide you with guidance on when, why, and how can you confront difficult behavior, to teach leaders to be able to foster a positive and a productive work environment, to be able to showcase strategies for building stronger relationships with difficult people, and how can you be able to gain their trust. So I believe that by the end of this session, you will be able to have a little bit more knowledge on how various types of difficult people manifest, and know why it is important to be vigilant and to be able to have the strategy to manage this. So it's a good ride. I'm looking forward to see how you can create that environment. So for those who don't know me, my name is Triza Kuka. I'm the lead coach at Pinnacle Executive Coaching. So I'm a leadership coach. I normally like to refer to myself as a thought leadership coach because my intention is to provoke your thought process. How are you thinking, and how are you going to organize and structure your thoughts to be able to help you to scale up yourself as a leader? I have a program that I call the Dare to Lead program. The Dare to Lead circle is a place where we teach you how to discover what could be impeding your leadership. We teach you how to create awareness, how to recognize options that you can have, and then enable you to be empowered to scale up on your leadership. So if you want to find more, please contact me and we can be able to have a little chat on that. So today we are talking about recognizing difficult people. There are different types of difficult people in the workplace, and they can manifest in form of manipulators, blamers, passive-aggressive people, controlling personalities, and any other type of difficult people. These are people you will be able to see every time. So let's look at the manipulator. When we're looking at the manipulator, we need to understand and recognize that a manipulator is someone who is attempting to manipulate you. They usually will show signs of controlling behavior, passive aggressiveness, or fear tactics. They are attempting to control or influence your decisions. So these are people who are usually looking for attention. Bottom line, they are looking for attention, even if it's negative attention. So if you ignore the manipulator's attempts and refuse to engage in their behavior, that would be one of the most effective way of handling a manipulative person. You have to keep your cool and not rise to the bait while you maintain control over the situation. If you are aware that you have recognized this person is just looking for attention, whether it's positive or negative every time, and they want to coerce you to do things their way, then if you can be firm with your boundaries, you can be able to manage that person very effectively. If you recognize a manipulation attempts, you have to clearly communicate what you're comfortable doing and what you're comfortable not doing. And you don't have to be afraid to give a firm no if someone attempts to manipulate or guilt trip you into doing something you don't want to do. So keeping your cool will help in such a situation. Once you're aware, you can stand firm with your boundaries. You can seek outside support if need be, or just ignore it, and while you're carefully, firmly saying no, and then you can be able to pull yourself out of the manipulator's negative influence. So this is something that you need to be able to know, and you can be able to do. If you have that awareness and determination, you can be able to ensure your own personal safety and well-being, as well as the well-being of the team. You should be able to know that it's perfectly okay to stand up for yourself as well as for the rest of the team members, and that no one has a right to manipulate you or to manipulate any other person in the team. So next, we are going to look at the blamer. Blamers are people who always want to push the blame to others. They'll blame the circumstance, they'll blame other people for everything. It's not them, it's always the other party that is wrong. When you're dealing with a blamer, it's important to remain calm and don't take the blame personally, because that's the intention of the blamer. You have to acknowledge and validate the person's feelings, but you have to stay firm on your stance. Let them know that you understand what they are feeling, but you have to be clear to them that their accusations are unfair and they are not justified. You have to avoid engaging in long conversations and arguments because it might be unending. Instead, keep your responses very short, very direct. Try to remain very positive and don't let the situation escalate. So if you practice active listening, you will be able to repeat back what the person is saying back to them in a very respectful manner. Do you mean to say that I'm the one responsible for you not having achieved your targets? Do you mean to imply that? Then it makes them pause and remember this is about them, not about you, or the other party. When you repeat the statements that they are saying back to them, it will help them to be able to have a better perspective and recognize where they are coming from. If the situation becomes too overwhelming, then it's best to take breaks from the conversation and come back and engage only if you're in a better mental state. Remember, some blames could be justified, but not every blame is unjustified. So that's what we're saying. Listen. When you do active listening, you might be able to find that there's an element of truth, but it's highly exaggerated. So if someone is saying something, when you do the active listening, you'll actually be able to break down and you might be able to pick that which is truth and that which is the exaggeration. So if someone is becoming a very frequent blamer, then it can be beneficial to have an open, honest conversation with them and tell them how their behavior is impacting your relationship at work, in the team, or wherever. Keep your communication channels open and be willing to compromise. Okay? Ultimately, you have to be very careful to maintain a healthy balance between responding appropriately and standing up for yourself and not taking the blame personally. This will help you to effectively manage that blamer. And if you're able to manage this, it will have a very good positive impact on how you can be able to interact even with others in the future. So create a safe environment, a more positive environment for yourself as well as for all parties involved. Patience is required when dealing with a blamer because you have to help them to be able to get the perspective that it doesn't pay to always throw it off, but they have to introspect. So the goal is to have a healthy conversation, be patient with them, stand up for yourself, don't take it personally, and with some practice and effort, then you can be able to effectively handle a blamer and create a very positive relationship between the two of you. So let's see the passive aggressive person. When you're dealing with a passive aggressive person, it's a bit challenging, but you have to try and remain calm to avoid escalating the situation. You have to acknowledge the other person's feeling, but you should not allow yourself to be drawn into a conflict, because it's very easy to be sucked up into a conflict. Practice active listening, same way with the blamer, and pay attention to what they are saying, what they are acting, what they are throwing at you, in order to be able to understand their concerns and needs. Take responsibility for your own actions and try to be as direct and honest as possible when you are communicating with this person. So don't make assumptions. This is usually a trap that most people can do. You can think, okay, since he's not overly aggressive but yet he's throwing the jabs, that you want to make assumptions that maybe it will pass. No, avoid making assumptions or directly attacking them. Just focus on how mutually the two of you can work together to find a mutually beneficial solution. You can be able to also model positive behavior. You respond assertively. When someone is passive, you respond assertively. Assertively doesn't mean aggressively, but it means I'm calm, but I'm very clear. I'm not vague. This is it, this is not it. So you respond assertively, calmly, and directly. You also don't react defensively. You set healthy boundaries. Be very clear what is acceptable to you, what isn't acceptable to you. And then encourage the passive aggressor to be able to rise up and talk directly. You'll be able to do that when you are assertive and you put yourself in a space where you also talk directly. Because the passive aggressor wants to push things without open conflict in the beginning, but of course it quickly escalates into open conflict when it's not handled. So encourage themselves to express themselves honestly and openly so that conversation and communication can flow. All right? You can be able also to offer constructive criticism if needed, but make sure that you do it respectfully without being judgmental. So take care of yourself in order to remain level-headed when you are dealing with a passive-aggressive person. And if the situation becomes too much, always seek professional help from someone who's more qualified or who can intervene as a third party so that you don't get drawn into a conflict. All right? Then we look at the controlling personality. There are several practical tips that a leader can use to effectively handle a controlling personality. First, with a controller, you have to set very clear boundaries and expectations. Be able to communicate very clearly so that they know this behavior can be tolerated, this behavior cannot. Because controlling people, they can trample on you if you don't watch out. They can trample on other people in the team. For them, the end justifies the means. So you have to help them understand what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not acceptable. And you have to be consistent with those boundaries and expectations so they know and now can be able to trust that these boundaries will always be upheld. I'm telling you, I'd rather lose someone who is technically good but who keeps breaking boundaries. If they cannot be able to respect the boundaries, then in the long run it will be detrimental to you, to the team, to the organization if you keep this person. So you have to show them what's acceptable, what is not, and maintain that boundary. Keep repeating it, keep emphasizing it until it becomes clear and it's upheld. So you can also give constructive feedback. When you give feedback, focus on the behavior, don't attack the person. So it will help them to understand they are good, but this behavior needs improvement without them feeling devalued. As someone who is a controller is usually a go-getter, they're so driven. So if you put them down, they can just go flat down and not be able to do now anything at all. So you want to give them feedback on how they can improve, but you want to be in that space where they will not be devalued. So it will also allow them to take responsibility for their own actions and make changes if they choose to do that. So you have to stay calm and composed when you're dealing with a controlling personality, and it can be difficult to remain patient if someone is exhibiting a lot of behavior that is so energetic and it's not favorable. But if you stay calm, then you can help to prevent the situation from escalating and help keep that situation under control. So I hope this give you practical tips that can help you to work and deal with a controlling personality, and therefore you can be able to foster a positive work environment for everyone who is involved. There are many other difficult people who might not fall into these 4 quadrants that we've talked about directly. So it's always important to just know that every individual is different, and there may be times when additional strategies may be needed to be implemented in order for the situation to be managed successfully. But if you employ patience, understanding, consistency, and most of all, self-awareness techniques and exercises, you can be able to learn how to deal with every difficult personality that is there, and there are many resources. Personally, I can be able to help you with a 360-degree tool, self-awareness tool from the Leadership Circle. We can be able to help you know, are you actually the controller, or do you have controllers in your team? Do you have people who are passive? Do you have people who are laid back? Do you have people who are manipulators? It can be able to come out. So if you have a need for such assistance, reach out and we can be able to get that self-awareness for you, for your team, and then you can be able now to be equipped to effectively manage what you know. All right. So I think this is something that we all want to work towards, creating a healthy work environment. If we follow these tips, we can be able to handle difficult personalities in an effective manner and create a healthier workplace environment. So just remember the main tips: be consistent with setting boundaries and expectations, provide constructive feedback, offer positive reinforcement whenever possible, remain flexible and open-minded. So if you need help to manage a controlling personality, we have many resources, as I've said. Please reach out and we'll be able to assist you in that. Initially, you may not be seeing results visibly straight away, but just continue to trust the process, work at it, and you'll be able to succeed. So thank you so much for listening. Feel free to come back to me from any of my social media channels with any questions that you might have. Reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and I'll be glad to assist you. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.